Tamara, you're chasing a story about a transgender student who became the homecoming queen, and of course controversy erupted. What do you got?
A transgender 17-year-old was crowned homecoming queen at Trenton Central High School's homecoming game. Now take a look at this picture taken at the event. It is Jae Irizarry. She is a 17-year-old senior, and she ran for homecoming queen this year because she wanted to make it special. Up till this year, she was actually registered as a male student. She just recently changed to female, an identity that she actually is comfortable with. Now, after she was announced as the homecoming game, there was a huge uproar on social media. Even parents were getting involved. They were saying things like a transgender should not be part of homecoming court because she's registered as a male student. They were also saying things that there should be a separate homecoming for LGBT students, as well as saying that this whole thing was rigged and that a teacher was responsible for stuffing the ballots in her favor. I reached out to the high school, and the superintendent's office got back to me saying that's absolutely untrue. So to get a better perspective on this, I met up with Darren Freedom Green. He is a community leader, as well as he was the football commentator that night.
So when I was coming back, there were a few parents who approached me about the situation. They were hot. I'm an advocate for the young ones. And I went back and I talked over the last few days to a bunch of them, at least more than 20, 25. All of them said they voted, and this young individual, they're in support of them.
So you see a real difference between the parents and the students.
I just want to go back to the fraud, right? So the allegation. So it wasn't just a rumor. I mean, it was reported in the Trentonian. There was a whole article about it. The reporter
went as an anonymous source.
Well, but most reporters are not going to give you up their sources. And the other thing, just a question, I wonder how many people, if they objected, would be willing to put their name out there as someone who objects because the issue is so controversial. Because the minute you are either in the minority or even if you're not, and you raise any question about this issue of transgender, it's very easy to be labeled a bigot. So I spent some time on the radio this morning talking about this, and I had a transgender woman call. She was 61, and what this transgender woman said, she said, actually, I think it could be a negative that there's all this publicity now because it's not recognizing the psychological torture that some of these kids go through.
This transgender condition happens when you're born. It is not about choice at all. That's really what I want to make clear here.
Yeah.
And I knew that when my body looked correct, the world seemed to be at peace.
I mean, God, some people can't even decide what they want to have for dinner. And now you got people that don't know what their sexual identity is.
What you're saying may be true, but judging from everything that Tamara reported, the kids are okay with this and voted this young woman to be their homecoming queen.
At some point, you know, young kids need decisions made for them.
We are not talking about 12-year-olds. We're talking about high school seniors that made this decision. They're going on to college. We should respect their opinions like adults and hope that we taught them well enough. But what we're looking at here is a generational gap. I was a homecoming princess. And one of the things of my school was this was a huge generational celebration. People would come year after year, whether their kids were in the court or not, and it was a tradition. And that's why maybe the older generation is so vehemently upset about this.